Great. Well, good day to everyone. My name is Roger Rinker, and I would like to welcome you along with Candace, my partner, and Amy, our guest speaker today, to our virtual chat series that we fondly call #KeepLearningStrong. And this is one of many chats that we'll be doing with industry leaders within kind of the learning and development workspace. Our goal with Keep Learning Strong is really to connect and network folks within the community so that we can learn from one another, especially given our challenging times right now. Lots of lessons to be learned, lots of change going on within organizations. So that's our overall goal here, is to connect professionals that are sharing some of those issues. And you can kind of follow us or join us, if you will, through LinkedIn, through Twitter, and through kind of a number of other social media outlets out there. So we encourage you to do that. And I'll say it now, and we'll say it again at the end. We really hope that many of you joining today's webinar will, or watching today's talk, will share your stories as well, so that we can continue to do these in the weeks and months to come. And to introduce ourselves just a little bit more, as I said, my name is Roger Rinker. I've spent approximately 30 years in corporate human resources for a couple of very large global companies as the HR and talent management leader. And over the last few years, Candace and I have partnered and really pursued our passion, which is around, I describe it as employee development, employee learning, and kind of maximizing the learning that organizations can accomplish through their learning strategies. So with that, I will give Candace an opportunity to introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Roger. Yes, Candace McGlenn, and like Roger said, just passionate about employee development, helping organizations reach their capacity. I've been in HR and talent management for the last 10 years, and just really fortunate to be a part of this community and really a part of this campaign on promoting learning and the professionals that make it happen. Thank you, Roger.
Great, thank you, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And now the official introduction of our esteemed guest speaker today, Amy. We've got a little on the screen there, a little synopsis of kind of your background. And I really love the quote that is referenced here. Looks like it's from Dr. Carol Dweck. And we've been learning a lot about our guests through their quotes that they submit. And you know, the love of learning, the resilience, all definitely apply to today's world. So with that in mind, Amy, could I get you to tell us a little bit more in depth in your own words about your role in your organization?
Sure. Well, I started my company, which is Hart Training Connection, 11 years ago, and I've loved it ever since. What we focus on is helping organizations develop the relationships between their employees, their leaders, and their customers. And the way we do that is through training programs and leadership and communication skills. And so our greatest joy is helping companies by an analysis of where they are right now, looking at where they'd like to be and helping them create a plan to do that, but also very importantly, to create a plan for sustainability and accountability. So that's the process that we go through.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And so what I kind of took from that, you've been running your own business for 11 years, so you're probably more adept at many at the virtual workplace, I assume.
Yes, although I've done a lot of instructor-led training, as we all know, the shift has been just enormous into virtual-led training. And I think one of the things I'm seeing is, and I'm sure you have too, that doesn't mean you can just slap your old training program onto a webinar and talk all the time, right? It's also mastering the skills of virtual training as well. So, and that takes practice as any skill.
Yes, it does. Well, great. So maybe we could kind of start the question and answer session. This is where we grill you, Amy. So be prepared. But uh, what? Tell us a little bit about what keep learning strong means to you, and kind of what thoughts come to mind when you think of this concept.
Okay, sure. I think it's particularly relevant right now. And we all know the kind of rapid change we've been experiencing. It's just been exacerbated by the pandemic. But for a while now, it's been crucial for companies to have a learning culture. And I think to me, that's what it means to make learning strong in your organization. Because if we don't, if an organization isn't constantly learning, they can't possibly keep up with technology and the change and be competitive in today's market. Also, to me, it means from an individual standpoint, it's strengthening that learning muscle within yourself. Because again, without it, it just doesn't cut it anymore to do it the way we always did it. We can't do that any longer. So it's fine tuning your own or strengthening your own learning muscle so that we're constantly expanding skills as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. It really feels as though, the last 3 months for all of us, things will never truly go back to normal, right? And some of that
Right.
probably isn't a bad thing. It's definitely got us a bit more accustomed to change and dealing with change in our lives. So thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
How about with regards to your consulting business, Amy? How has this? We had a leader that we were doing an interview with the other day who referred to the times that we're in now as the COVID, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, what are you seeing in your world, and how does it kind of impact your agenda with regards to your consulting firm?
Sure. I see a couple of interesting things. Obviously, one is the very rapid switch to virtual, whether that be virtual meetings, virtual training, and the need for organizations to be more effective using virtual tools. Also, remote management of teams has been an enormous, we've been reading a lot about it on LinkedIn and various places. So I think that particular challenge has also shown organizations that you can't necessarily just, as I said earlier, slap the old way you did it into a new frame. You've got to actually empower that material, that information, or that learning to work in the new virtual world. So the thing I see is, for me personally, it's the demand for improving my virtual skills even more, for practicing more, for learning in different avenues, not just the same stuff I've been comfortable with, for example. But also, very importantly, when a company needs something that I don't necessarily have just by myself, I've got to be able to tap other resources, my peers, other consultants that can come in and help take care of that client's needs. So the need to be well connected in a time of change is extremely important, so that we can service our clients the way they need it, not necessarily just based on what we have. So we can combine skills with other organizations.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Before today's call, Candace and I were talking about, there is a need for more online learning, I think, given the current times and experiences we've gone through, but don't forget the quality aspect of that as well. And I think you touched on that, in that, you got to rehearse, you got to be prepared, you got to know your audience, and all those things will help create a better online learning experience, which is critically important as well. So thank you for that.
Well said. Sure.
How about going forward? Any predictions with regards to how your agenda and your business's agenda may change now that we're going through this, and what it might look like on the other side?
Well, I think we've touched on some of it. I think we'll see a lot more virtual training, communications, routine, people working from the office from home at least part of the time, for example. Much more flexibility is what I see. It's the the pandemic is kind of making us become more nimble in both physically, but also the way we think. And I think that is something we need to carry forward. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not thrilled with being uncomfortable. I mean, I have a certain human resistance, but I'm learning that you either get used to being uncomfortable or you will not be able to flourish. It's just something we have to do. So I think getting comfortable with being a little uncomfortable and moving forward anyway is something we have to carry into the future, because it's not, I don't think it's going to change. I think the rapid change and need to be flexible and innovative will continue.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. And Amy, I'm now going to pass you off to Candace, and she's got a series of questions for you as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Amy, for your insight so far. I think, you know, you really hit home when you said you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that's the truth. So you sort of touched on this when we were talking about distance learning, but what does successful distance learning look like to you, and how has technology enabled you to date?
Okay, great question. I would say one experience I've had that really taught me a lot about distance learning is I was actually in a program with Shell Oil. I was on their faculty for a leadership program, and it was actually, it was part of it. We had some pre-course learning that people did, of course, and then we had actually, it was face-to-face and then follow-up webinars. So we had it was blended in many ways. But what I learned from that in terms of distance learning is how important it is to not just have that quote event, but to have structure built in that helps people practice what they learned. So for example, in distance learning, what I'm thinking about is we had peer coaching. Our people formed groups from before the first face-to-face. And they kept those peer groups throughout the training, including at the end. And by having the peer coaching periodically, they became so bonded. I mean, I could tell we had actually 2 face-to-face classes. And it was so cool to see how bonded those people had become and being able to share their current problems. So the point I want to make here is in distance learning, it's very important that we build in abilities for people to interact on a more intimate basis. And peer groups is a good way to do it, peer coaching groups. Because I think the problem that I see sometimes is it's the same thing you see in face-to-face learning, a same challenge, which is an event. Oh, there's this event. I'm supposed to know it now. I can be skilled and great. No, it doesn't work that way. Most of us learn and then we practice and we apply and then we learn some more. It's a series. So when it comes to distance learning, I think it can be very effective, especially with the technology we have today, with things like breakout rooms, where we can be doing especially a effectively designed training has lots of opportunities for us to connect on a more intimate level. But I want to emphasize the importance of sustainability, of continuing that distance learning, not just one-off situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's moving from, like you said, the event to creating an experience that is sustainable, that will stick.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So can you share any helpful advice or maybe resources you have for business leaders in the L&D community?
Sure. I think today is a wonderful time to tap resources, especially because of the pandemic. There are so many great resources available. Just LinkedIn alone, I'm seeing lots of people offering great training, for example, for nothing to a very small amount. So, and articles and research. So one thing I would say is to really stay on top of the resources and take advantage of them right now. One of my colleagues, for example, has a group she created of clients, and they meet weekly and they discuss their leaders in HR and they discuss their most current problems. And it's a way that they can collaborate and help each other. And that would be a second thing. So resources, really taking advantage of the resources available to you. The second thing is collaborate with your colleagues. Candace and I know each other from a professional association, ATD, that we both belong to. And I think that's extremely important because You know, especially now, you can sometimes feel alone, or you maybe get caught in some fear. And it's really important to have people that help you pull out of that mindset, even, and leaders as well. So I think collaborating with others, making sure you're tapping into resources and taking advantage of good training that's available for you as a leader and also your people. I think one of the biggest, I liked the way someone put this. They said, I forget, it was an article I read, I think, but they said a poor manager is still going to be a poor manager, whether they get training, you know, especially if training is shut down, which some companies say, well, that's gone because we can't afford it anymore. The problem with that attitude is a poor manager is going to be grossly exacerbated by this pandemic. They go back and they have no people skills or no sensitivity into what their people are going through or flexibility in dealing with the needs of their people. It's kind of like that negative effect will be greatly exacerbated. So I think being aware that we all need to fine tune our skills and how important good training is in helping us do that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another angle for why it's important to keep learning strong, because you know, times like this, either it's going to increase what's already broken, or you know, you're going to see another side of it. So training is definitely important. Learning is important. Development and growth. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And so, speaking of sort of competencies and skills, what are you seeing in terms of trends that you think skills and competencies that need to be cultivated in the workforce today?
You know, this one's easy. I really have a strong fondness and belief in growth mindset. In the quote you saw, Dr. Carol Dweck made this concept quite famous by research she did. And the idea behind growth mindset is no matter how talented or smart you are, you can increase that by learning and by failing, by the way, and learning from your mistakes. As a recovering perfectionist, that concept was revolutionary to me because I did have the old, well, you know, I'm really smart, I've done well, now I can kind of just relax. No, and we all know you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I think the skills and competency needed is to cultivate a growth mindset, an excitement about learning, learning from mistakes. And from a company standpoint, we want our employees to be able to make mistakes and learn from them. You know, if you have a culture environment where you feel like if you make a mistake, you're going to be blasted, you're not going to be very innovative or creative. So I think that attitude of learning and growth is extremely important. And again, especially in the economy we're in and the technology advancements we're in, that is just crucial in my opinion.
I agree with that. Thank you. And so it's a big one, self-care. We've never experienced anything like this before. So I think what we do to sort of keep ourselves up and our resiliency is important. So any thing you like to share around what you're doing around self-care?
Sure. I've really focused on walking for my exercise because I'm consistent. I'm really good about consistency with that. So I think all of us, whatever we can do consistently physically to help our physical fitness is really important. I've also made it a priority. I meditate. Some people can call it mindfulness, but I have found that's really helped me. Because not you guys, but man, if I go off onto thinking about fear, oh my God, what's going to happen? If I let that thinking get away with me, well, I can be, you know, very negative very quick. So I really work on calming myself, centering. And another piece of that is staying connected. Because I've had bad days. I think all of us have had bad days during this time. And what I've noticed is when I stay connected with people, like I have a group of colleagues that I connect with every Friday. We talk about different things. And I can't tell you the times I thought, I don't want to connect. I'd rather, you know, I don't really feel like it. But I'd have myself do it anyway. And of course, I would get out of that mindset much more quickly just by being around my peers and have a much better attitude afterwards. So I think knowing we're human and connecting with others, not only for ourselves, it'll help us, but also so we can help our peers and our friends and our colleagues as well. So connecting in a regular way.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how important connection has become. I think we all know or knew it before now, but I think the power of connection is very apparent during this time.
Yes.
So, final words. Just how do you plan to keep learning strong?
I think what I've learned is the importance of some things that I would do periodically, but now I'm much more clear about it. And I'll give you some specific examples that will help me with planning to learn strong, keep learning strong. One is to have goals, to have specific goals. And I mean learning goals too. Like I want to be able to master facilitating on Adobe or whatever it is for the individual. And then scheduling learning times. I schedule that time in now so that I'm always learning something different and improving skills in different areas. And that has really made a difference. It's helped my confidence a lot as well. And it's just making it a priority. And then the other things would be what I've already been doing, which is connecting on a regular basis with my colleagues, continuing to, learn all the new things I'm learning and apply them. And just running my business will always keep me learning strong as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. We really appreciated having you today and you spending this morning with us. And it's been really great getting your insights and learning about all the ways that you're keeping learning strong.
Thank you.
For anyone who wants to connect with Amy, we have her information here. Reach out to her on LinkedIn. She always posts some really good and insightful content, so you won't regret following her and connecting with her. And we have a challenge for all who are watching. Please share your story at #KeepLearningStrong. Tell us, maybe it's your favorite learning quote, maybe it's what your organization is doing to keep learning strong. You could post your story on LinkedIn and Twitter, and be sure to follow us at our landing page to get downloads of videos and resources. Thank you. Have a great one.
Hey, Candace, I just want to add my thanks to Amy as well. It was great meeting you, Amy, virtually. And also I don't think we've addressed this yet, but in addition to sharing stories, we're trying to build a network of professionals here. If there's any questions you have, maybe situations that are coming up in your life or within your organization that you'd like to maybe get a pulse of what others have done or are thinking, we encourage you to do that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roger. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, guys. It was great.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you next time.